Welcome back. Everybody's laughing. I only have one rule in my marriage: no check bags.
It was like one of my proudest moments was my wife flew cross country and back, and she did not check bags. And I was like, this is...
Well, I love that away luggage. It's perfect for not checking.
Thanks for rubbing it in. I've heard you read the ads, and I'm
really
traveling today. No one get for me away luggage.
I don't like checking bags either.
I don't do it.
Because I feel bad. It's not the person's fault in the room that the luggage was lost, but they just have to deal with everyone being upset all day.
That's the worst room in America, is the room off of baggage claim, where every different airline has that room.
Lost luggage.
Lost luggage room.
Awful. Right?
And they have these basic numbers by different types of bag, come in and identify. Imagine being that person
all day,
where no one comes in and goes like, "Hey man, how you doing? Great job today, got my bags." They only come in and they take all of the heat, and they had nothing to do with it. They never check their bags. They don't know you. They've never met you. No one ever says, "Hi, how are you?"
I always try to be nice to those people, and I'm very nice to people at the DMV because I know that that's what they deal with.
I'm the same way. So I'll tell you, I'm not going to get into my protest. I'll do that later. I have a huge life-altering protest later in the show. I'll do it at the top of next hour.
I just want to point out that when you talk about that protest, I'm calling BS, because I believe that it's a lot like people who complain about airlines that say, "I'm never flying that airline again." And then they got to book a trip and they get online. They're like, "Wait, it's $20 cheaper to fly that one?"
I'll never badmouth airlines. They get ripped by the media on the internet, and I hate it. It makes us look so out of touch and unrelatable. Everybody in America has gotten delayed, media people. Stop whining about your Delta. I've flown Delta for 40 years. I love Delta. I've had one bad flight because the world came crashing down. There was a blizzard. And it was the only time I had a bad flight. Other than that, Delta's been amazing. And it wasn't their fault. It was God or whoever controls the weather. NASA or whatever. Weather Channel. All right, Doug Gottlieb's here. Listen, the Westbrook thing, it's a basketball thing. Westbrook is not an off-ball shooter. Harden's unbelievable with the ball. I don't think he's going to relinquish it. If I was James Harden, I wouldn't relinquish it. There's a reason you and I both do solo shows, because we wouldn't relinquish the mic enough. That's why we do good solo shows. We probably wouldn't work great outside of segments. I don't think it's going to work. What do you make of Westbrook, the player, today?
Well, it's a very interesting point, because earlier in their career, it did work. Right? When they were together on the Thunder, in the fourth quarter, as Charles Barkley said should happen, James Harden was the point guard and Russell Westbrook was the off guard. And Russell Westbrook's a very good cutter. He's obviously crazy athletic. Yeah. And he doesn't, it's weird. You look at assist totals and people are like, "Whoa, he's a great passer." Like, no, not really. He doesn't create shots for other people nearly as well as he could. He's not a bad passer, but you move him off the basketball and he has a chance to be fantastic. But that was how many years ago? How many MVP awards for both of them? And they've grown and evolved into different people. It would be like if we did a two-person show 7 or 8 years ago.
When we were both coming into our careers, we would have been much more willing to do it.
Yes.
But now we're really difficult.
Yes, correct. And now we go on rants about coffee.
Right.
And how expensive coffee is.
Right.
So it's not going to work. Well, look, Russell Westbrook is... What's not discussed enough, it's not just that he's a high-volume shooter and high-volume misser. Like, you're talking below 30% from three. As much as you might not love the Lakers roster, they don't have a player on their roster that shot outside of JaVale didn't shoot threes below 30% from three.
Yeah.
Like, that's... And you have a team that collectively takes a ton of threes. Right. Takes the most threes in the NBA.
Houston shoots threes or dunks.
So wait, you put a guy who's on a team that shoots a ton of threes and that's not a good shooter, and you're going to tell him to shoot less?
But you know what?
And then, by the way, he doesn't play defense anymore, and he's also not a good finisher at the rim. He's crazy athletic, but he's not a great finisher. If you look at the analytics, he doesn't finish well, and he's had 3 knee surgeries. And as much as you guys are right, the Chris Paul contract's bad, it's 1 year shorter than the Russell Westbrook contract. The last year that contract is $47 million, okay? $47 million. He's 34 years old. He's making $47 million. Good luck. Good luck with this deal. I think it probably had to be done.
That's where I think, listen, not all deals are... There are people called owners in the NFL, and some owners, I've had coaches tell me stories about owners you can't believe. I would tell you the story, and you're like, that didn't happen. Owners are crazy.
Owners own is the expression, right?
And
why does it make sense? Owners own.
And by the way, the Fertitta family, they're watching the West get improved, and all of a sudden they're like, we were the talk of the league. merchandise sales. Don't kid yourself.
I don't know if this is for Tita as much as Chris Paul and James Harden clearly needed to be broken up from each other. Right. I think they weren't getting along. They didn't see. But think about Russell Westbrook. You're going to a guy who's a high volume misser going on a team that shoots the highest volume of threes. And yeah, by the way, you got a lame duck head coach that doesn't coach defense and lost Jeff Bezdelek, his defensive coordinator, got fired this year. Right? Like, how do you think that's going to work? It's going to, I think they're in the short term better because he's more athletic.
Yeah.
And he's got a little bit more in the tank than Chris Paul. But long term, that's not an NBA championship team.
By the way,
anymore.
I'll just throw this out there so we can put it on tape. It's up to me, and I ran the team. I like Mike D'Antoni. I'd remove him, put in Ty Lue. Why? Ty is confrontational. Ty is a former player. Ty gets after guys. Ty Lue, to me, would be the coach I would hire. I think you have Mike D'Antoni's a wonderful guy, works with certain young players, not confrontational, acknowledges on tape. D'Antoni acknowledges, I'm not really confrontational. You're going to need a little confrontation about 45 games into this thing to sit down with the fellas and say, listen, this is the way it's got to work, so I don't think it'll work. I only got a minute left.
It is interesting, Houston, though, right? How many times have they tried to rework this thing?
I know.
Right? Like, I almost feel bad, and it doesn't matter ownership or whatever. Like, they had Yao Ming, and let's add Tracy McGrady, and then Yao kept getting hurt. And then, they make this move, and they get James Harden, and they've tried Dwight Howard. That didn't work.
Right.
Jeremy Lin, once upon a time, was supposed to be his point guard. That didn't work. Then the Chris Paul trade, that didn't work.
Yeah.
And now it's not for lack of trying.
No.
They try really hard.
Yeah, and James Harden's a great player. So when you get one of these great players, you're like, okay, we get like 5 years left of great James Harden. 4, 3. Now we're probably in the 4 to 5. But I think there's a clock on James Harden, and they're saying, we've got the best analytic scorer in the history of the league. We got to figure this out here. He's got 4 prime years left.
But then you go anti-analytics with this.
Well, I know
move.
it doesn't. There's a reason that most people, like the analytics people, are all over the internet going, I don't understand it. Again, I think it, like you say, Chris Paul.
It was a personality conflict that led to a divorce, but because of the length of the contract and Russell Westbrook's success with the averaging a triple-double and the ego of having the basketball, you married the rebound chick. That's what you end up doing, and you married her for 4 years.
All right, calling right, calling wrong next hour. Doug Gottlieb, my major life-altering breaking news change next.